And we're back with another episode of the AC Milan Zone podcast. It marks the return of the Viking of AC Milan Zone. Oscar, welcome back, Ozzy.
Thank you, thank you. It's not nice to be back, actually. I was dreading this podcast. Live reaction wasn't much better a couple of nights ago.
Yes, a tough one. Although, as always, the live reaction settles us, puts us to sleep, especially when the result didn't quite please us. But of course, the true important, no disrespect to you, Oscar, but the important guest is makes his debut on our channel. We're very happy to have him. He is one half of Napoli Nation TV. Unfortunately, his dad couldn't join us because of time zones, but we're sure we're gonna get him on eventually to talk a little bit about calcio and Serie A. But it is Mario. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing today?
Ciao ragazzi, I'm doing fantastic. I'm sure you guys are still doing well after that loss. It's perfectly fine. It's just football, guys. I see a lot of fans taking it quite serious on the Twitter app, but I love your guys' content. It's an honor to be here and grow with you guys. So let's get right into it.
I appreciate it. Of course, if you're a calcio fan or maybe a Napoli fan that's found his way to his channel, all the links for Napoli Nation TV are in the description down below. Go say hi, tell them we sent you. But of course, unfortunately, despite the dreading from Rozzy and I, we need to talk about this game. A fun fact: this is the first time in our podcast history where we have a guest on scheduled for the podcast and we lose. So if you sense a little bit of extra saltiness in our commentary in the air, that could be because of that. But the Rossoneri step into the Maradona and bring home the first real big loss against a big team this year. Napoli wins it late. A very fascinating game. I saw a lot of interesting commentary, especially as Italy was coming from their rough exit from the World Cup. Well, didn't even begin, so I don't know if we can call it an exit. But the loss in the qualifiers and the names of Conte and Allegri, which we'll get onto later on in the podcast, were brought up as possible replacements as managers, and they offer a spectacle that only modern Serie A could offer. A very tight game where the most we could enjoy was sort of half chances, the beginning of chances, and where both managers were happy to see what the last 20 minutes would hold. This is a classic Allegri, and probably not too dissimilar to how Conte likes to play. And unfortunately for us, it did not go our way. Politano, out of all, finds the winner. An interesting weekend. A lot of the players that did not do well for Italy found some sort of redemption just a few days after, which is interesting to say the least. But of course, let's get into it. As only fair, the guest and the winner can get the word first. In just a few sentences, 90 seconds, what did you make of this game? How did you see it?
Okay, so I think both teams played well defensively. Being Allegri and Conte, very defensive-minded coaches, we kind of expected this. It's a
Mm-hmm.
1-0 game. Also, kind of expected that. But in the end, I feel like we were able to punish Milan in the sense of a mistake. Really, that's the only way that we scored. It was a cross that led to practically nobody but the Milan defender. I can't remember what his name was, so apologies for that. But it ended up hitting his head, and Politano, who has a good track record against Milan, so I wasn't too surprised, even it being Politano. In Napoli Nation, we actually call him Napolitano. But yeah, a 1-0 game just kind of made sense for this. We both know that if both teams, ended up tying, it'd practically be a loss for either one of us, considering, the point differential with Inter all the way up there now at 7 points with us. So yeah, defensively, I think we were both profound. Offensively, of course, on both sides of the ball, I think we could have both done better. I know Milan doesn't really have that profound striker, and Napoli was missing both Lukaku and Hoyland, so we had to go and put Giovanni in, who I'm not a huge fan of, even though he played okay in my standards. But yeah, Allegri and Conte classic, all in all.
Ozzy, what did you think from our side?
I think I have to agree with pretty much everything that was just said there. Yeah, it was. I guess non-Serie A watchers will think this was a boring game, but I think all Serie A watchers will agree that this was kind of expected. It was a game of chess, really defensive chess. They were both solid defensively, and just like you said, Stefano, waited until sort of the 70th minute for changes. Unfortunately for Milan, the two changes that Napoli made led to their goal, and yeah, we got punished by a De Winter sort of half hesitation and Bartesaghi not really picking up Politano at the back post there. Um, we don't have a striker. It was a proper striker partnership. I think that was clear. Obviously, neither did Napoli, but a defensive mistake cost us the 2 points, I guess if you could say. I think both Conte and Allegri would have been happy walking out of there with a draw, perhaps with a 0-0. Um, but I think this was a classic Serie A big matchup towards the top of the table. There's only a handful of games left. Nobody really wanted to prove anything. Waited, and try to outlast each other. So it was a defensive spectacle, but not so much fun to watch if you were a neutral.
Yeah, hard to argue. I'm putting up some of the stats. Pretty even keel, a little bit higher expected goals for Napoli, but I mean, we're talking about zero point 0.8 versus 0.6. Definitely not a lot of difference. The ball possession is pretty much 50-50, 10 shots to 7, same big chances. I mean, even if you look at the passing, the numbers are in the same realm, which is pretty rare, and maybe speaks volumes about the state of Italian football. This is a game that, early in the season with the same situation on the table, you could sort of understand, especially for Allegri, who is a big believer in the, draw the games that, don't lose the games that you can't win. But this late in the season, I don't know. I would, in the football that I like to watch, I would like to see both managers, wanting to go for it, being more forceful for the win than fearful for the loss. But we can get into the managerial talk also a little bit later. Also, especially for Oscar, as I see a lot of people criticizing Allegri, which a little bit is fair. A little bit is this game was 0-0. They were gonna say it's probably was the fair result. And they were going to say how boring both these managers are. Whoever won 1-0 from the episodes, whether it was going to be Politano or, the Nkunku chance that happens to go down or whatever the case may be, the other manager was going to get criticized and says, oh, this is, in his blood, this is what happens. So, always a little bit of the risultatisti on Twitter. And as we like to remind everyone on this podcast, Twitter is not a real place. But Mario, to get back to you, you thought overall fair is a very harsh word in football, but would you say this was a deserved victory, or if it would have ended 0-0, you would have said, okay, that's the fair result?
I mean, if it would have ended 0-0, I think that would be fair too. I'm just being honest. I like to be non-biased. Just because both teams struggled offensively, that's really it. But I had a feeling that whether it was Napoli or Milan, something was going to go down. It just didn't seem right with the soccer gods that it ended 0-0 just because of the positioning on the table. And I was hoping it was going our way, of course, but it really could have gone either way. I feel like you mentioned earlier, the substitutions were a bit late on Allegri's part. I feel like, Pulisic and Leao offer quite a lot, and they were put in a bit late. And once they entered the game, I feel like we were struggling a tad. So
yeah, it was a bit of a baffling. We talked about this in the reaction right after the game as well. A bit of a baffling starting lineup. We decided to put up Fulkrug, which is definitely an interesting choice on Allegri's side. I guess the thinking was we might suffer from some of the pressure and need to resort to some long balls, and for that you need a striker that can chest it down and head it. And a few of those did come, I suppose. But we honestly, even in the first half, which I didn't think we played terribly, we had more chances in open space, which is definitely not Fulkrug's bread and butter, and we saw that. The fact that Leao only plays 10 minutes makes me think that he probably wasn't perfectly healthy, which he hasn't been all season, so this is not a surprise. Probably same thing what goes with Pulisic. But Oscar, how shocked were you to see that starting duo up top? And before I leave you the word, this is not, there's many wrong options. I'm not sure that Allegri right now is a right option up top. It's been forever since our strikers have scored. It's been almost a year since in days that Santi Jimenez has scored. He's the longest drought. The one that scored more recently is Leao's 38 days ago. I mean, our guest had less children last time any of our 6 strikers scored, and that says a lot. That says a lot. So, how surprised were you by the starting strikers?
Yeah, I mean, if you look back in our podcast, I think we've both been shouting, or not shouting, but asking for Füllkrug to start. Which I think in games, I think I mentioned this in the live reaction that Füllkrug should start in games where we are most prominent in the final third, or should at least be dominating. Where we've
Mm-hmm.
been, it's not spam crossing, but at least having the crossing as one of our big strengths through Bartisagi or Selemakers or even like a Modric. This I think this was a wrong choice for a big game like this. Nkunku and Füllkrug, they seem to be miles apart from each other on the pitch. And that could be too, I don't know, I assume we were thinking of going in with these two quite early on, considering neither Füllkrug nor Nkunku went off on international duty. So we had almost 3 weeks to prepare for this.
Mm-hmm.
And, you mentioned that we never know with Pulisic or Leao, they're very much day to day, right, with their injuries or how they're feeling. So I think the perhaps if right, the game plan didn't go our way in the first half, and then you look in the second half, make those changes early. And you mentioned that Fulkrug was struggling in space. We both know we have a certain Rafa Leao who loves space and can actually capitulate on that. And I think bringing him off or bringing Leao on a, that late, and B, after it's already 1-0, when you know Napoli's going to draw together and not try to pass the halfway mark or halfway line, which is completely fair. I'm not saying that you shouldn't park the bus, but we know that's what you're going to do in a big game in Italy. Score in the 79th minute, you're not going to be looking to attack. And
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, I don't think Leao is very good when there's what, like, 7 players ahead of him, and we should have had him on a lot earlier, or Pulisic. But going back to your original question, the game plan was, I think, wrong to start those two up top in Nkunku and Füllkrug.
Yeah, and Nkunku especially, who it was interesting. He got to play pretty much left winger, which is what maybe Leao has been wanting to play all season. But when he plays, he hasn't had the chance to. Um, I didn't think he was terrible, but in Nkunku, in terms of the whole season, has been pretty much terrible. But a different type of terrible, which maybe says a lot about our striking woes. Usually, you just don't see him; he kind of ghosts. This time, I thought at least he was trying. The game changes a lot, I think, in that one-on-one chance where he kind of moves it. He's on the left side, moves it left as a chance at a shot, powerful shot, but goes not on target. If that's on target, maybe um, you know likely a goal, very close. The game could have shifted right there. Allegri lives and dies in these games by those chances. I think it's very clear, which is why he's been asking for a striker, because he's not gonna create. He's not a manager that's gonna create 7 of those a game, which maybe some
Mhm.
people would like. He's aiming to create 1 or 2 and put them away, and when you don't, you live by Cortomuso and you die by Cortomuso. Um, but yeah, I mean, Rafa did this sort of a desperation move there at the end, and yeah, people said, "Oh, even if it was 10 minutes, it was terrible 10 minutes." What are you gonna do? These guys are not conceding. The last stretch. Conte has really settled in the defense. They haven't lost at the Maradona since last year, I
I think it's
believe.
20. Yeah, I think it's 25 straight games without a loss.
Yeah, which is just impressive. And yeah, I mean, this is where I think the big battle that Conte won was, as you both mentioned correctly, was in the subs. Could have been a little bit earlier, could have been a little bit more attacking. One brings in Allison, who I think gave the little spark, even if it's something as silly looking as a no look pass to sort of unlock a little bit of space, but leads to a goal. This is what these games are won and where they are won and lost. And we didn't, and all of a sudden, the players that come in to make use of the last 10 minutes and the space, like the Allisons and like the Leaos for us. One had a chance to do it at 0-0 with space, and the other one was, kept crashing into the big Azzurri wall. How big do you think, Marco, was the difference between Conte and Allegri? And do you think that it was pretty much a Conte win when overall the players on the pitch sort of were equaling out in terms of performances?
I mean, listen, we know that both Conte and Allegri are very similar in their tactics and their play style. We knew it was going to be a very gritty match, but in terms of player quality, I mean, I think we all know here that any team can improve in their quality. Considering guys the striker situation, us. with all these injuries, practically no bench. Yeah, I mean, there's only so much you can really ask for Allegri right now. I think Conte has a good team. They just had a whole bunch of injuries this season, but I feel as if if the Milan management gets situated correctly, and Allegri gets that one striker, a lot will change. I don't bash Allegri. This is a guy that's won so many times with Juventus, playing the same style, but they had a lot of quality. That's the one thing he needs: quality. Once you get him that quality, I promise you, at least one Scudetto your way. And I mentioned this earlier on my other video that if it wasn't us winning the Scudetto, I would like to see Milan win. Inter, I have a lot of animosity towards Inter. I do not like Inter. Milan, they're a partner in the crime. I would not mind winning it, but unfortunately, I don't see either of us pushing for it at this point. I'm just being realistic. I know there's 7 games. We're 7 points away. But I know Inter are known for bottling Scudetti, and you could argue they bottled one against you guys. They definitely bottled one against us last season. I mean, they
Mm-hmm.
had it in their grasp.
Yeah.
So anything is possible, but I'm just being realistic. I think this is theirs this season. But yeah, I think Allegri is a fine coach for you guys' team. It's a bit of an overreaction, like I mentioned. You just need to find those quality set pieces and get the team straight. Figure out that striker situation. I know I mentioned it so many times, but I promise you, once that occurs, you fix that striker, things will go much better.
But that's where you're right in your analysis there. But that's what's so frustrating from a Milan perspective is that not that we went out and spent a lot this summer, but we are
Hmm.
only. I said if we could have just found one striker that worked, right? Either it
Yeah.
was just a proper number nine and maybe an experienced centre back, then we're talking Scudetto. But you know what? Furlani goes and does his own thing, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tare doesn't have the influence yet because he was brand new this summer. So that's I think that's what's gonna sting once the season's over. You can kind of look at. Now, I don't think neither Stefano and I thought that we're gonna win the Scudetto. Top four is absolutely fine, and I'm very happy with it. But uh, to consider we're one experienced center back away, like in a Kanji, could have been great,
Mm,
and gotten a proper number nine. Then yeah, that's what stings the most. It's that it's not necessarily a manager's fault or a player's fault. It's the management's fault.
hmm.
Yeah,
Agreed.
and how ironic that perhaps it was two players that sort of snubbed us because of lack of Champions League and because of perhaps not guaranteeing playing time in Akanji for Inter and Rasmus Højlund up top could have been maybe the difference makers for us. But I mean, absolutely, I think. The problem for me it's also the cohesion between the Tade and Allegri Brock and the management because they seem to not agree on anything. I mean, as I say a million times, Tare showed up on his first press conference on the job and said, we're going to play 4-3-3 and we're going to have a proper number nine. And then within months, we know that that was completely the opposite. Allegri asked for certain players and he got Nkunku last second, a profile that we did not need and he did not want. Not that he's a bad player, but not a profile we wanted, and got Odogu for the defense, a player that had gotten just a few minutes of second Bundesliga time, and pretty much got his own man at the dying days of the Mercato because we lost against Cremonese, honestly, because this is what Milan does when we lose the first game is go in the Mercato and see what headline can replace the loss to Cremonese. And because Adrian Rabiot decided to punch a teammate. As simple as that. Otherwise, we're looking at a
Yeah,
Mercato that beyond Modric is quite complex. Um, but you were mentioning not this was going to be my next question. Is there a Scudetto race in your mind? Because for us, we've always said, even when we were closer to Inter, this is not our bread and butter this season. Allegri has done well to put us closer, and again, if we had pieces, if we were firing, but there was never a moment in our mind where we had more than I don't know 30% chance at the Scudetto. You guys had your struggles maybe earlier on in the season, of course. Uh, Injuries were tough, the mental blow of a terrible Champions League campaign. But Conte, and this is I think something very different from Allegri that I respect a lot from Conte, has had to come up with a lot of different solutions this season, and every time it seems like the door is shut on his Napoli. He's found a way to change the system, to change the players. He has not been perfect. A lot of those players that he found were also lost on the bench because it takes him a while to trust someone to play, which is maybe a bit of a fault. But every time there's been a problem and Napoli looked terrible and defeated, he comes back with a new footballing solution that sets you on the right path. And this last little bit of stretch, you guys look like you could win, if not all, most of the games remaining. Now, of course, you need Inter to slip a lot. They've had their own little mental issues. Unfortunately, they got to play Roma, and Gasperini performed the usual bending over that he does against our cousins. So maybe a better rival would have helped you. But are you considering the title race over? What percentage do you give to Napoli to still dream about the Scudetto?
Well, it's funny you mentioned 30%. That was my exact percentage
Okay.
before the Roma game. But after that,
Okay.
I already suspected that Roma wouldn't have won, but at least like a draw, just give them 1 point. But to be dominated in that fashion, I don't want to hear nothing from any Romanisti anymore, man. They always like to confront Napoli fans about being a bigger club, et cetera, et cetera. This game right here just proves it. All season long, they have struggled to beat big teams. That's just plain facts. They're a great defensive team. Obviously, don't score too often, but they managed to find. I forgot who they picked up, but he's quite a good player on the attacking front, and they were scoring goals. But against Inter, to perform like that, a 5-2 loss, I don't know what else to say except it's very embarrassing and a hit to the south of Italy. I don't even know if they consider themselves the South Central, whatever. But yeah, after that game, it's diminished down to like 10% realistically. I don't see Inter bottling 7 points away, and also we would have to win out in 7 games, and we've already won. What was that, 5 in a row that I saw up there? So
yeah,
I mean you're talking quite a bit of games in a row here, and calcio, anything can happen. I mean same way towards Inter, but for us to win out and Inter to basically lose twice, tie once, to even make it a tie ball or a tie point differential up top, and then play the I know Serie A added the playoff final. Yeah, that would be
yes.
interesting. I'm sure that would gather a whole lot of views, but I just don't see it happening. And if it does happen, that's fine with me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I
That
just
would
don't
be
see it.
incredible, and I would not, for my own health and safety, I would love to be not in the first ever Serie A Scudetto playoff battle. That would be, or final, whatever they end up calling it. That would be good, not good for my health. So it would be a good one to watch as a casual, and just be scrolling on Twitter and reacting. All right, fair enough. I think that's very fair. I would give us, just because math is math, a 1% chance. Napoli probably close to 10, and then I think Inter. We've known them for a while. They're running away with it.
Yeah, if you look at their fixture list, Inter's, it's Como and then Como again in the Coppa Italia, and then it should be pretty plain sailing. It's Lazio away. Lazio fans will probably be shooting rockets outside of the Lazio players' hotel room because they just hate Milan. They'll actually turn up for once. Yeah, no, I think you're right with your mathematics. But it would be great to see a playoff final.
That would be.
Uh,
It would be.
it would be such a shit show if it ends in like a 0-0, it goes to extra time, and then it goes to penalties. That would be Serie A in a nutshell. All the casuals from Serie A, from Bundesliga, from La Liga, from the Premier League will come watch that and just absolutely have a hate watch fest of Serie A.
Hide the XG numbers on that. Although I would have to say Napoli would have the big advantage. I mean, if Inter bottle it so much that it goes to that, especially with their players, lack of spirits, lack of attributes, as we say, you would imagine Napoli would have a big leg up. But going back to our game, as you mentioned, the man on the screen right now, after being pretty heavily criticized for his performance in Italy, and also, I mean, I think this season, you can speak to it a little bit better than I can for sure. But from your own fans, hearing a little bit of mixed reviews, I think beginning of the season was incredible. He seemed like Conte's man in terms of his name would be first on the team sheet, and then the other 10 would line up. Then obviously he had, like everyone else, some injury problems, and then maybe some up and down moments. But he scores a winner. You're absolutely right. He has been an absolute Milan killer for some reason. He's his favorite club to score against. What do you make of his performance and the importance of this goal and all that?
This was great. I feel like Conte made the correct decision having him come on as a sub. Me
Mm-hmm.
personally, I don't hate the guy. I don't love the guy. I mean, there's either or in the Napoli fan base, and there's a lot more haters than lovers of Politano. I will say that, but and I can't really blame them per se, just because you know, it took him I don't know how many games. Just a couple weeks ago, he scored his first goal for us. So that says a lot. I know
Wow.
he's not a profound goal scorer per se, but he's expected to create up top, which he has also struggled all season long. He's a great defensive wingback. I will say that he does that job great, especially paired with the Di Lorenzo. Unfortunately, that pairing didn't work out this season either. So it goes both ways. He made the game winning goal. There's really nothing bad you can say about him. He came on with a lot of fire, and this is the Politano that I loved when he was under Rudy Garcia. Probably had his best season as a individual under him actually, and I just wish we could see it more often. But Politano and Conte, they have a great relationship. I honestly always prefer Nedes playing on that wing and then having Politano come on as a sub. Of course, Nedes is very injury prone though, and we have to almost give him 50-50. But yeah, this type of Politano, I would love to see every game. We're not going to see it, but I would love to see it. But phenomenal, phenomenal shot. I know it was off a mistake off the Milan's defender, but he did the
You still have
job
to
and we
put
got the win.
still have you still have to put those away. Yeah.
Yeah, right
Yeah.
place, right time, and have to get on target. For the goal, Ozzy, who do you blame more? Sort of the Winter heading up a ball backwards like he's got a striker on his back when he really doesn't, or Bartesaghi jumping up like Super Mario and missing the ball altogether to let Politano shoot.
Good question. I think it's I guess I shouldn't say butterfly effect, but it's a chain reaction that Bartisagi is kind of hesitating and panicking because the Winter was hesitant going up for the ball. But we've seen this before, where Bartisagi does forget to properly mark somebody in the box, especially on the far post.
Mm-hmm.
It's and it drops perfectly down to Politano. He slots it away really nicely, but Sag doesn't have a chance to react properly. But the reason he can't react to it is because he's standing over 2 meters away. There's two Napoli players in the box. We've got five or six, I think, including our back three, and then Bartisagi just has to pick up the one man that he should be marking. So I think I would probably put it down more to Bartisagi. Not saying it's a colossal mistake, but it's a growing pain for him. I'm sure he'll learn from it. But now it's coming. This is we weren't expecting him to start this much for Milan. I think if it wasn't for Bartasagi, we'd be looking at a much worse season, considering Estupinian decided not to play football this year. And hopefully he learns from it next year. I'm sure will be a lot better. It's growing pains. He's still a young guy. He's still plays under 21s for Italy. So I'm not gonna sit here and shit on him like I do with Ruben Loftus-Cheek, for example.
Yeah, fair enough. And this brings on a topic that a lot of people have been talking about, and we've been having a lot of discourse also on Instagram with fellow Milanisti, which is Allegri, the formation, what's happening. Obviously, as we talk about a lot on this podcast, the whole talk of formation is often, quite hit or miss. And we play in an era of positionless football. Each team will look drastically different with and without the ball, and even depending on moments, the lineups will change and where the positions of players are. That being said, a lot of people are calling for the 4-3-3 for us to play 4-3-3, and my biggest problem with it is this is not an Allegri problem. People are saying, "Oh, he's archaic. He won't go 4-3-3." We do not have the players for it. Who's playing fullback? And people are like, "Oh, Atekame looks great." Yeah, Atekame looks great right now off the bench. For the
In a back
did
five.
not exactly in a back five where he's undersized like Salemakers, would not be a good presence in a header, in a heading battle in the box, and it's not particularly good 1-on-1 like Salemakers. So the whole right side is already a problem. Tomori sometimes plays the fullback role on that side when again we have the ball and we play 4-3, and you can see that he's not. How many crosses have I seen Tomori successfully deliver this season? Maybe one. Um, but so that's a problem. On the
Yeah,
left,
one.
Estupinian is looked terrible defensively on a back five. I can't imagine in a back four. And Bartesaghi, as you said, is that his problems. Do I think he can develop to be a fullback in a four at the back system? Absolutely. He's not undersized for once. He's played center back before, so he's not terrible defensively. There's some things to improve, which a player of his age definitely will. But at the moment, especially against Napoli, it just doesn't work. We just don't have the players for it, and that's just the fullbacks. If we start talking about center backs, this is the same exact center backs that last year played for the back, and finished eighth, and were conceding 2 goals a game for most of the league. So what are we talking about? At least in my mind. But Ozzy, for you, for more the Milan side, do you sort of agree with the online sentiment that we should be looking at formation change and go for the back? And then for Mario at the end, because you guys also play 3-5-2, which has been a big topic also in Italy overall, because that's what the Nazionale failed with, and now there's a whole campaign to ban the formation altogether. Do you think that sometimes it's sort of the core of the problem in Serie A and us as a Nazionale? But Ozzy, start with us, and then we'll go to Mario.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head there in saying we don't have the personnel for it. And we're not going to be playing Salamakers at right back. We're not going to play Atakam at right back. We certainly shouldn't be playing Tomori at right back. The centre backs, Pavlovic, Gabbia, would I assume would be sort of the centre back partnership, or a Pavlovic De Winter. No, no, thank you. Bartisagia left back. Uh, sure, I wouldn't mind it, but again, we've seen how good he is offensively, so why sort of hinder that? And he's no Theo Hernandez where he can. I mean, he's very athletic. He's still quite big for his, quite quick for his size, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, no, I don't think that'll be great. And then midfield three of Modric, Rabiot, Fofana, or Jashari. I think that would be great. And in a perfect world, we'd have Pulisic on the right, Leao on the left, and a proper number 9. But
Mm-hmm.
again, who is the proper number 9? We don't. Fulkrug, sure, I guess, but no, that's not
Yeah,
really what we were
Santi
looking
got a
for.
header,
So,
I guess, when he
in,
came in, but not really
yeah,
Mr. Reliable
yeah,
right now.
yeah. So and just like you say, football or tactics nowadays are so fluid. You look the shape changes completely when you have the ball compared to when you don't have the ball. When you've got offensive and defensive, and depending on what kind of game it is, if we're playing like a Cagliari, we're going to be dominating possession. We're going to be a lot more forwards. Our formation looks completely different. Bartisagi is basically a left winger, and Rabiot pushes up, so it becomes sort of a cam. Then you've got whoever is his partnership with Liao. So again, what? So the season, we're saying it's a bad season because Allegri doesn't play 4-3-3. I find that a long shot. I
Mm.
don't think it's not the formation, it's the personnel that we don't have it for.
Fair. And how about you from the Napoli side with Conte? A different 3-5-2. Sorry, and a manager that has, a lot. Not that Allegri doesn't, of course. Those Juve teams, we'll remember it. But Conte feels much more stuck in his ways with this. Often for good reason, much more fluid than Allegri has been, especially offensively. But are you happy with it? Is there any sort of the same sentiment from Napoli fans? And do you agree with many of the online chatter that is sort of the death of Serie A football and Italian football?
So Conte, in the beginning of the season, he tried to implement all four of our midfielders: Anguissa, McTominay, Kevin De Bruyne, and Lobotka. Um, People were complaining that it was different and it wasn't working as well. I mean, when you implement a whole new formation, it takes time to grow. I mean, training at the facility only does so much, until you experiment with like actual teams who don't play you
Mm-hmm.
every day at a practice. I thought it was fine. I like to see all four being implemented. Of course, we weren't getting the Conte results that we were used to. 1-0. We started to concede a lot more goals than we should have. So eventually, Conte, even with the injuries, Conte had to go back to his usual 3-4-2-1. That was our most primary shape, was a 3-4-2-1 with I don't know who was the healthiest, Juan Jesus. Oliveira played quite often back there.
True.
Buongiorno whenever he was healthy too, and then we had to implement Rahmani and then Bukema, who also Rahmani was injured for quite a few as well. So you have to change it up when you deal with these injuries, and that's just the main priority is to change it up so that teams tactically don't know exactly what you're going to do. I feel like whenever we are comfortable and we have all our healthy players out there, yeah, he can get away with doing the same thing over and over again. But I don't have any complaints towards Conte. I think he's a phenomenal coach. I think with what he was dealt with this season, he did great. I was just happy, like you guys, I was happy just getting top four, and then now we're in the talks of being in a Scudetto race with Inter. So I have no complaints. I know people on Twitter like to chatter quite a bit about their criticisms, but I think we did fairly well for what we dealt with for sure.
Yeah, and I think it's similar to us in the sense of, okay, I can believe that there are managers that handle, maybe in your case, the double uh, doppio impegno of Serie A and Champions League better than Conte has. In our case, there are probably managers that play better football than Max Allegri. But right now, who would you get? You don't have the the market prowess of Italian football of the past, both in terms of salary you can pay the managers, but also promises that you can make to managers in terms of who you're gonna buy. So is Pep on the cards? No, it's not for anyone.
Yeah.
So are you gonna fire Conte or Allegri to get what? Sarri when he marches out of Lazio? Okay, is that
Yeah.
such a big
Or
step forward?
just look at what Juventus did when they got Thiago Motta.
Hmm.
That was somewhat of a, I shouldn't say I guess it wasn't a shock, but you're gambling a lot there. He did great with Bologna, but that's Bologna.
Yeah,
Juventus is a different animal, different aspirations, different. So if you're gonna go out and experiment, if you want to call it like that, it'll end up biting you. And since then, it's been Tudor and Spalletti. And I
yeah,
guess I don't know what this. We'll have to get Diba Alexa on, however she's feeling now. But Spalletti, I know he's coming in a hard situation. He has not been able to buy the players he's wanted, but mid-season as well, it's not. They haven't really improved all that much, have they? I think maybe perhaps style-wise, and probably banging in more goals and living and dying on Bremer being healthy. But again, who else are you gonna go? Like Allegri for us was a secure choice. He's been around the block. He's won Scudetti. It's not even that it's his safe option. Like he's won a lot. Okay, Juventus dominating era, I'll give you that. But he won one with us back in
yeah,
the day. Of course, it was a good squad, and we deserved to win it that year. The next year, we got robbed by those ladri di Juventini and the refereeing and the Montari goal. But yeah, who else would you go out and get? The Zerbi maybe was kind of on the talks, but that was a season prior for us.
yeah. And that's the Thiago Motta effect, right? You gamble on a manager. Thiago Motta was a darling. We wanted him. I would have been happy with him. But then you really need to gamble that he comes and he doesn't do what Xabi Alonso did at Real Madrid. Not play terribly, but you need to win when you have this big manager job. You need to win every game. And it's a lot easier to come in and say, hey, we play this modern football and I'm a genius and you play like this when you play at a smaller club. But then you come and you try to explain it to Mbappe, or at a smaller Serie A level, you try to explain it to big time players in both of our clubs, and it's a little bit different. So yeah, to me, it's if you're a Napoli fan and a Milan fan, you hold on tightly to what you have until you
Yeah,
see a big drop off,
Agreed.
until you see
Yep.
Conte next year replicate the terrible Champions League campaign, and you say, hey, okay, one time a lot of things happen, injuries, but now we're trying to be better than that. See you later. And until you do a mercato that Allegri wants, he has a real striker. He has full backs. He can play for the back if needed. And you see him play some dreadful games and not impose himself and lose against relegation sides. And you say, okay, look, last year you had barely a squad for one competition. This year we helped you out. You don't have it. So I need to see more failure from both of those guys before we move on.
Definitely.
and as our favorite saying on this podcast, don't ask a pizzaiolo to fix your sink, and don't ask a plumber to make a pizza.
Wiser words have never been spoken. But before we close out on this game, from both of you, I'll put up some of this ratings, which don't mean a lot. They're just from foot mobs. I think a lot of these are impacted by passing percentages and stuff like that. But from your point, who was sort of the main turning point? So a top and a flop from both teams. We'll start with you, Mario, from the Napoli side. Who would you give your man of the match, and who was a little bit more worrying from your team?
So not many people are talking about him, which is very surprising. But for me, it was Miguel Gutierrez. He's playing in a position that's not his natural position. He's usually in Spinazzola or Oliveira's side. I think he shut down pretty much everything that came his way. No critical errors. He managed to push the ball up frequently smooth. He's not being talked about enough. This isn't his natural position. This is where Politano would kind of line up with the Di Lorenzo back there. But I'm going to give it to him. I know people will say, Politano man of the match or someone like KDB. Wow, he had is that a 7.3 rating for KDB? Sorry, I cannot see it. My eyes are terrible.
It is 7.3. No, you're bang on.
That's kind of crazy. I'm not going to lie, 'cause I thought he had quite of a lackluster game in my opinion. But yeah, I'm going to give it to a Miguel, honestly, as the top player for our team.
Yeah, I think a lot of these ratings are like, some of the percentage stuff, they're automatic. It's not, I'm not shitting on FOMOB. It's like all other services, but they see, some of this 100% 201, even if it's 2 out of 2, and it bumps it up. But no, interesting shot with Gutierrez. Good heat map. Now that I think about it, as you're speaking, I tend to agree. I thought, obviously Politano comes on. Both me and Ozzy were raving about Alisson. He's definitely one of those players that he does well, and then people want him to start, and I feel like they shouldn't. I like him in this last 30 minutes and in space. But no, that's a good shout. And which player sort of disappointed you a little bit more?
Anguissa. I know he's back from injury, but not a bad hit, Matt. But it's just like in general. The thing about Zambo, I don't know if you guys are familiar or not, but he's kind of an on and off guy. I know he had that one really good month in early on in the season. He won like 5 player of the matches in like 1 month, and then kind of slowed down just a bit. Then got that crazy injury. Then he got injured again with a back injury. Just stupid stuff. And he once again, in my opinion, looks sluggish out there. Didn't really create too much. Didn't push the ball up. Defensively, he was okay. But that's my main issue with Zambo. I love the guy, especially when he's on fire, but he's very on and off and inconsistent. And in my opinion, this is one of the games where he didn't show too much.
Agreed. That's what I had in my notes too. Actually, I'm a very big Anguissa fan. In general, I loved the Napoli midfield. McTominay obviously speaks for itself, but even Lobotka, who I know is maybe on the way out. I would not be against stealing. But yeah, you can see. I think Anguissa, is coming back from the injury, so it's tough. But usually you see him pose much more on the game. Ozzy, if you want to include any comments on the Napoli side, feel free. Otherwise,
no, I mean,
to ours.
Yeah, Anguissa is one of those players that when he's at his best, he's really, really good, and then sometimes he'll be lackluster. And I thought he lost a lot of silly balls in midfield that made us. I guess it's against a very good Milan centre mid, right? It's Luka Modric and Rabiot Fofana who work really well, but I think it's one of those seasons. Back injury as well. Back injuries are not usually just knocks. It's something more. I think Cameroon, he went off to the AFCON, right? For Cameroon, they had a disappointing AFCON. Started off the season not so great. It's one of those seasons for him, perhaps. I'm sure he's going to bounce back.
Yeah. And he's one of those Leao cases where he's back every game, and then he doesn't play. So something to share between the two. Ozzy, for us, obviously not too dissimilar from Napoli. If Napoli was mostly, let's say, 6.5s to 6, we were probably mostly 6 to 5.5. But who's your top and who's your flop?
It's actually kind of hard to find a top, to be honest. I think we always, whenever we have these types of games where nobody really is great and nobody's really that poor, we always go back to a certain Croatian magician, Luka Modric. His 6 out of 10 game is usually other players 8 out of 10 games. Just because we expect so much. I thought he had a really good game, and I was very surprised in the first half that they allowed Luka Modric that much space. I think the first six weeks of the Serie A, he was dominating midfield, so then they're like, let's put a man on him. And then he just, I shouldn't say disappears, but it makes his life harder. And I
Yeah.
think maybe, I'm not sure, the Swedish commentators are saying that, because I watch it in Swedish TV, right? And they're saying like, oh yeah, one of the expert commentators saying, I'm surprised Conte hasn't put Kevin De Bruyne to mark Luka Modric. And I'm thinking, since when
Not the
has Kevin De
guy.
Bruyne
When
ever
did you do that?
that's not the guy. Yeah. Either put Lobotka or Anguissa,
Oh,
especially I
definitely.
guess
That's
Anguissa on him.
Yeah.
And I think that's
Yeah.
where I think the poor rating for Anguissa comes out of, because he didn't perhaps do that job, or maybe he wasn't told to. But yeah, I think Luka Modric for us, he had a 6 out of 10 game for his standards, which is usually a lot higher for other players.
Yeah, that little sequence where he dribbled past like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
yeah, that was
Yeah,
beautiful. Not gonna
and
lie.
that's when
Vintage.
you know that we create too
Vintage.
little. When he's like, "Yeah, you know what? Give me the ball, my feet, and let me go on a dribbling spree. I'm only 40
Yeah.
years old." Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Only.
And
And
okay, so
flop
if
of the
he's your man of the
match.
match, who do you point a finger at?
I guess it'd be easy to go after Bartesaki purely because of that mistake, but I don't think it wasn't like a colossal mistake, so I don't think I'll give him flop of the match. I thought he had a pretty good, like a normal game. I think for me it has to be Salamakers, and I'm not sure if you've watched. Of course, you don't watch every single Milan game, but after, is it Christmas ish or New Year's, Salamakers has just not been the same player. That he was out for what, 2-3 games, I think, out of injury, and I think it came as well with the national breaks. It was obviously in time it was a lot longer, but in terms of
Yeah,
games, it was only 2 or 3 games. But after that, he's been really poor. I think even maybe it's because I have higher standards. He was so great for us September, October, November, and then December, January. Ever since then, he's just sort of fallen off, and yeah, I think he didn't do much either defensively nor offensively, but not a terrible game.
yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
I think he's very similar in terms of general role in our team to Apolitano, for example. Obviously, a very similar position. One that's definitely couldn't play for the back, but does the wing back role, perfectly. Politano maybe lacks a little bit of the dribbling that Salemakers has, and Salemakers probably lacks a little bit of that definitely finishing. I agree with you. I thought lately he was the catalyst to our success early on this season, and lately that's been missing. I was hoping that a game like Napoli would turn him up. He does like to play against Napoli. Obviously, he scored in the reverse fixture and has a few important Napoli goals. But that just wasn't the case. It wasn't to be. So I agree. But I mean, the worst of the game for us could be a few. To me, Fulkrug, not even necessarily because he was terrible, but just missing in action. To me in the goal, yeah, Bartesaghi does badly, but De Winter could have done a little bit better. But even that, it's hard to blame on him. He doesn't head it like that because he chooses. It's lack of communication. Where are the defenders and the goalkeeper calling out to him what to do. And the midfielders did well. Fofana had a few mistakes, but I thought he tried very hard and was all in the right place at the right time. Rabiot went missing a little bit, and that's usually the case that decides if we win or lose oftentimes this season. Modric is going to do Modric things. When we haven't had Rabiot for injury or red cards, we've suffered. This time we had him, but he was a little bit missing in action, and that cost us a little bit. But I think that's enough of the game. It's tough to talk over this game a lot of times. Not a lot of things happen. As I said, it could have gone either way if one ball goes in. If not, if De Winter just chests that ball down and it clears it probably ends 0-0. Obviously, Ozzy, you have your love for Italy, but you're a Swedish man. You're going to the World Cup, unlike us. There's been a lot of talk, obviously, about who should take the reins for Italy, and Allegri and Conte were both asked about it because their names came up. Do you think, question for both of you, either of them is the right man for the job? Obviously, it would be a returning assignment for Conte, who delivered much better results in Italy with a much poorer lineup, which is sort of what he tends to do. And would be obviously a first-time appointment for Allegri for the national team.
Man, as much as I hate to say it, I think Conte would be a good fit. I don't want to see him go. Like you guys both mentioned, keep both of our coaches as long as we can until shit hits the fan. But yeah, I think he would do perfectly fine there. At least hit the standard of making the World Cup. I mean, we're gonna be now 16 years until we make our next one, even if we do make it there. It's just ridiculous, knowing Italia and our history at the World Cup. This is discrimination to the whole fan base. You just don't. You're not supposed to see this. All these England fans. I have a lot of friends that are out in England. Every 4 years, I just know they're all waiting just to throw their banter on me, and well, they got it again this year. So just very disappointing. They definitely need some new fresh blood at the coach position. We all kind of knew that Gattuso wouldn't have gone far in the World Cup. I did still expect him to at least make it past the stage that we failed at, but once again we didn't do it, and it's just disappointing to say the least. That's all I can really say about our situation there. But yes, I think Conte would be a good fit. I even think Allegri could be a good fit. I don't I don't see Allegri leaving Milan after one season unless he's pushed out. I think he wants to go yet again. Conte, he's practically done his job here with us. He's got the Scudetto. We don't have many as you guys, Juve, Inter, Milan. We're still playing a big catch up there. So, but I feel like he's done his job here, and I wouldn't be upset or disappointed if he was to leave and try to help Italia out. So.
Mm-hmm. Ozzy, before I get
Yeah,
to
if
you,
it's
super quickly for Mario, do you get the impression that Conte will leave or wants to leave? Because you never know with him. And you
So
never know also with De Laurentiis how those talks and relationships go. Is the feeling that it will stay?
So the feeling actually for me, just because in Los Angeles we actually had a event go on for the again
Yeah.
on premiere. I don't know if you guys saw those
Mm-hmm.
clips,
Yeah.
but my dad asked ADL a question about Conte being there, and he said we're excited for next season. So I don't know what that means. In my eyes, it means that he would want to stay and then go again. Uh, you just have to be in the Conte's shoes. Imagine being so bad in the UCL, and then this season you feel like you had a pretty good chance with the team that you had, and once again failed. I feel like he doesn't want to go anywhere until he does at least above the average of what a UCL team should do. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
he has one of the worst track records for a guy of his standard in the UCL. Like I
Yeah.
think it's below 50% on his win rate. I think it was 33 last time that I actually saw it, which is terrible. I
Yeah.
mean,
For
for
one
for a
of
guy to be considered one of the best
history's
coaches,
best coaches, yeah. And
wow.
that is definitely
yeah, and
Is it
then
Italian
go,
really?
coaches and definitely in Serie A. That's wild.
yeah. So I
Wow.
feel like he would want to bump that up just a bit more before he heads
Mm-hmm.
off to the national team, and just prove himself just a little bit more there. I'm not saying make the UCL final or like win it, but at least get to the round of 16, maybe something.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And Ozzy, how about you? Do you, as a sort of an outsider, but honorary Italian?
No, no, I'm not an outsider. I'm adopted. I'm adopted Italian. I mean, look, his first when he came in 2014, I think, for Italy, right? That was just after the World Cup in Brazil, right?
Yeah.
Or was it for Brazil?
Mhm.
Was it in Brazil? I
I
think
think it
he,
was in
as in like
Brazil.
he no, as in like he did. He was he there for the World Cup? He was, right?
No, he didn't do the
No, he
World Cup,
wasn't.
did
He
he?
was,
No, because
I don't know.
the World Cup we did terribly, and that's why we did terribly for the
No, I
standards
think
back
that's
then.
that's where I think he was. That's the thing. I think he was. That was a Prandelli. Anyways, doesn't matter. He came in for 2 years, and that was just after his Juventus managerial job. And look, I'm not gonna say that anyone could have won with that team. And considering Napoli, Milan, Inter weren't at their top, or Roma, they're never at their top actually. But anyways, uh, he's a completely different manager. He's been, I guess I say, around the world, but he's been, Chelsea, Spurs, Inter, Napoli. He's won things that isn't just comes automatically with inheriting or having a really good squad. So I think he'd be a different manager going to the national team. And if I was a Napoli fan, look, if like just like you say, Mario, if Allegri left after one season voluntarily, I'd be upset as a Milan fan. But as a Napoli fan, if the higher powers are calling you, the national team, go save it. then you kind of put your hands up in the air. You know, he's won this. He's won the Scudetto. I'm gonna put my hands up. Go have. I guess you're allowed to leave, and it's on a good note ish.
Unlike
So
with Spalletti, who said he wouldn't coach again, and then he goes to the Italy national team, then he comes back here to Juve Merda. Excuse my language, I hate them, but yeah, honorary fashion too. So
yeah. And if it's I mean, I never really understood why Mancini left. Was he outed for the Italian national team?
Sort
Not
of,
really,
yeah.
I
I mean,
guess he's
it's
just
the
it was
the whole
5 years or
managerial, the
something.
last few manage, and obviously it's much easier to say with hindsight, but you know, he had the great ability to bring everyone together and pull out the Euro victory. And people now, I've been saying on Twitter, which again is not a real place, but it's been pissing me off. So I need to say that was, you know, a fluke and we got so lucky. And it's like, no, that team still has one of the highest unbeaten streak ever. That midfield is disgusting. We absolutely dominated teams. Even the Switzerland, which we ended up being a big of a boogie team later on. We you know, the teams had ballers, had the Juve defensive block that was still was still solid. The midfield that we could have played two entire teams worth of midfielders, and then we're discussing that was not a bleep. And then after that he failed with North Macedonia, and that's probably where he should have gone. I think he stayed and then stayed a little too long, and it got complicated. And then same thing. I mean, I don't think Allegri is the man. He seems like if he would have gotten the job when instead of Gattuso, like that type of emergency, bring the team together, man manager, he would have been perfect. If now the situation is, hey, we fire Gravina, we reset everyone, we're gonna give from the managers like up top to the manager on the bench, you know, a whole new program. Then you want someone who establishes a project with also eyes in the future, and maybe Allegri is more of a win now sort of manager. But it made me rethink also, as you guys. Sorry, go ahead.
So and some managers need to work week in, week out with their players. You know, national team duty is completely different.
We saw
We've
with
seen so many.
Mhm.
You can see with so many great club or good club managers when they only get to see your players every 2-3 months, and it's a different squad every. I shouldn't say every single time, but there's tweaks to the squad that you don't have to work. You have to sort of, you know, the week before you've got 2 or 3 games, you have to all of a sudden rethink your strategy because you've got all these different puzzle pieces, and they get your main center midfielder gets an injury. You have to sort of rethink the whole thing. It's a very ad hoc type role. So I agree with you, Stefano, that Allegri perhaps wouldn't be the man for it in the long-term project or trying to make a World Cup, let's say.
Yeah. That being said, so I don't never like to go back to a former coach. It always, to me, doesn't seem like, it seems like a bit desperate and not the way to go. But if there was one, I wouldn't be upset with Conte. I went because I was thinking about this question, and as you were talking about it, and looked back, and Conte did some incredible results with such poor squad. People say, "Oh, Italy, we used to have Del Piero and Totti, and now we have this, and it's crap." I mean, that Euro run where we beat Belgium, scores Giaccherini and Pellè. Easily Serie B players. Like if they were both playing in Serie B, no one says a word. Then we beat yours truly, Sweden. Eder score. Then we lose to Ireland, but we already knew we were first, so we rested some of the players. Go into the next round. We play Spain. Obviously a very easy game. Win 2-0. Scores Chiellini and Pellè. And then, of course, we go and play Germany. Bonucci, your scorer. And lose after 27 penalties. But I mean, let me just super quickly read who takes those penalties. Insigne, okay, baller. Zaza, the very famous missed penalty. Barzagli,
it was that one.
Barzagli, Pellè, Bonucci, Giaccherini, Parolo, De Sciglio, Darmian.
Mamma mia.
This is a team that qualified first, beat Belgium, beat Spain, and should have knocked out, if we had any decent players, should have knocked out Germany in penalties.
Parolo.
I mean,
no disrespect to Parolo, but like that's the most average player you could find.
The fact that
no disrespect, like he was good for Lazio.
I mean, this is the national team. Yeah, this is quality.
Yeah,
he doesn't really have that kind
of
quality.
in Sweden.
In your first 5 takers are the ones you select. Barzagli and Bonucci both step up, and they're not the worst names because Zaza and Pellè are there. is crazy. So
Yeah.
just out
What
of
a
that,
throwback.
I will give. I don't think, as I said, I don't like when coaches go back, whether it's clubs or national team. But just out of that, I wouldn't be upset with Antonio Conte, and it's always nice not to have to play Conte as a Milan fan in the league.
Yeah.
But we've gone on for 59 minutes. We talked. Usually, the predictions is what happens with the rest of the league, but we both know. Very last question. Inter, we all said, is gonna win it. We're pretty set with Napoli being second. Both say yes.
I mean over us essentially. That's
Yeah.
the question. Not saying that I.
That's the
Yeah,
question.
yeah. I think so. No Champions League, no Coppa Italia, right?
Yeah,
For
the
them, for you
form
guys.
the form is pretty up and down.
Yeah.
Down for us,
Yeah.
up for them. So
We
it's
have
tough to argue.
we still have Juve at home. We still have Atalanta. We still have Udinese.
Yeah. And then the question then, if there's agreement there, is are we set on Milan third and not getting
Yes.
sucked down into
Yes.
into Champions League battle?
Most
Okay.
definitely.
Okay,
Yeah.
very good. I hope so, and I agree. Then no controversial last statement. We thank you, of course, Mario, again for hopping on. Bring your regards to your father and to the whole Napoli Nation TV family. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you for having me, guys. Thank you. Had a great time.
And with you, Ozzy, as always, as we like to finish, Forza Milan.
Forza Milan.
Forza Napoli.